to another green marble crochet tutorial. For this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make a very simple transitioning from summer into autumn beach type of a dress. Just wear while the weather's transitioning into that colder time. So we're going to be doing a fairly simple design, a little bit experimental. I hope you can hear what I'm saying. Anyway, that's it. The tutorial that's coming after this is going to be fairly similar, but you need it with long sleeves. So that's what we're doing. Apart from that, if you haven't subscribed but you would like to subscribe to join some more tutorials, I would love to have you join me. A big thank you to my patrons. Thank you for your support. Thank you to my subscribers. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching my videos. If you need to get in contact with me for anything very quickly, look for me on Instagram. I'm the_green_marble. And you'll be able to find me there very quickly. I'll be able to help you out in whatever you need. Yes. Anyway, anything else we need to say? We'll just get straight into it. Alright, now to begin, we're going to have a quick look at the tiny details on the label of the yarn that we're using. So this is what we're working with, and if you need more time to look at anything, just pause the video. Alright, so here are the tiny relevant details. So it's saying I should use a 2.5 to a 3.5 millimeter hook. So I'm using my 3 millimeter. So that's what we're working with. Alright, now to begin this design, we're going to start by making the bikini cups. Yeah. Alright, let's just begin. I'll just explain as I go along. This is a fairly experimental design, so at this point I'm not exactly sure about the stitch count that I'm going to be working with. But you know, I always say I like to make things that you can adapt for your own size. So sort of play around with it as you go along, which I will mention as we're going, but you'll see what I mean. Okay, so to begin, we're going to take the end of our yarn and we're going to take hold of it with the thumb and the index finger of the right hand. And then with the index finger and the middle finger of the left hand, we're going to wind the working end around like this. Then grab hold and pull that through the middle, just like that. So there's our slip knot. And we're going to grab our hook and we're going to adjust that knot to the hook. So just like that. Adjusting the knot to the hook, pull tight. Sorry, my camera is really hopeless at focusing. We'll do our best. Alright, so what we're going to do is we need to chain a length that runs from the midsection of the breast to sitting just beneath. So for me, that's going to be 13 chains plus an extra one for turning. So I'm going to chain 14. We'll do a chain stitch together. So for a chain stitch, it is yarn over. Come on, camera, focus. Focus, focus. It is yarn over and pull through the loop. So that's one chain. Yarn over, pull through the loop. That's 2 chains. Yarn over, pull through the loop. So that's 3 chains. I'll go right. Can't talk properly. I'll go away and chain my 14, and then we'll meet back up and we'll go from there. Okay, see you soon. Alright, now here's that chain of 14. So what we're going to do now is we're going to be working half double crochets back along that chain, but we're skipping that first chain right there from the hook. So hang on, I'm going to chain that again because it looks a little messy. So we're chaining that 14th one again. There we go. So that one we're going to skip, and that's going to be our turning chain. So half double crochets. Now for a half double crochet, what you do is you yarn over, then skipping that chain, we're going to move to the next one along. We're going to insert our hook into that chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So that's one half double crochet. we'll do it again into the next one. We'll go yarn over, insert your hook into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3 loops. So that's 2. So I'm going to do those all the way back to the beginning of the chain. Once we get to the final chain, we're going to meet back up and we'll go from there. Okay, see you soon. Alright, so here I am at the 13th chain and we're going to do it together. So what we do is, into that 13th chain, or the first one at the beginning, we're going to put 2 half double crochets into the same chain. So 1 and another one, 2. Now we're going to chain 1 and put another 2 half double crochets into that same chain. So 1 and 2. So now we've got 4 half double crochets in that top chain with a single chain between, so just like that, and that forms the peak and the place where we're going to be putting our increases. Yeah, that's it. Alright, so now what we do is we're going to put half double crochets all the way back down this side of the chain. So it's fairly easy to see where you need to put your stitch. It's going to be right above the one on the other side. So there's going to be 12 for me all the way to this end. We'll do the first one together. So there's that first stitch just there. So I'm going to be putting my first stitch just above it into the other side of that chain. So that's 1. Then moving on to the next one, which is just there. And that's going to be 2. So yes, for me it's 12, and I'll meet you at that point and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Okay, see you soon. Alright, now here I am back down the other side of that chain. So what we're going to do now is we're going to chain 1, so chaining 1, and we're going to turn the work like this. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put half double crochets up until you get to this chain of 1 that's between the 4 half double crochets into that top chain just there. So for me that's going to be 14 half double crochets because we increased by 2 each side. So on either side of that chain of 1 at the top there's going to be 14 half double crochets. And we're going to meet back up once we get to that chain space of 1, and I'll show you what we're going to do at that point. Oh, okay, no, I'm going to show you as well. Alright, so we've chained up 1 and we've turned, and your first stitch is going to be into that stitch right there. Focus, camera, focus, come on. Super annoying. Alright, so your first stitch is going to be into that stitch right there beneath that chain of 1. So just into that one there, you're going to put your first half double crochet. Alright, so I'll see you, and then into every stitch all the way up. Yes, I will see you when we get to the chain space of 1 at the top of that peak. Alright, now here I am with those 14 half double crochets up the side. So what you're going to do now is you're going to, pulling apart that space at the top just there where there's that chain space of 1, you can sort of see it right there. You're going to put 2 half double crochets into the center of that chain space. So you've got 1, and once you put in that first one it's going to be really easy to see obviously where you're going to put the rest of your stitches. So there's 1, then you're going to do another half double crochet into that, I've got to work on not bumping this camera, another half double crochet into that chain space of 1. Tricky yarn to work with sometimes. Bear with me, we'll get there in the end. Alright, so like I said, another half double crochet into that chain space of 1. Then we're going to chain 1 and put another 2 half double crochets into that chain space of 1. So 1. Oh, come on. It's a little bit irritating. Oh well, it was my choice to use this yarn, so I shouldn't really be complaining. So that's another 2 half double crochets into the chain space of 1. So it's 2 half double crochets, chain 1, 2 more half double crochets, and that's what that's going to look like. And if you sort of pull that apart, you can see that chain space in the middle. All right, so now what you're going to do is, for me, I'm going to be putting 14 half double crochets back down to this end. So I just want to show you quickly, just so you don't mess yourself up on stitch counts and stuff. Where you need to put your stitch is always going, because you're chaining up and you're turning, your stitch that you're putting it into is always above the body of the stitch to the left. So there's the body of the stitch just there. So there's that stitch up there to the top left hand of that is where you're going to be putting your stitch. So just in like that. I hope that makes sense. We'll do the next one. Oh no, hang on, I'll do this one. Probably the next one along will be easier to see. So I've done 2. Now here's the third one. So there's the body of the stitch just there. Up there to the left hand side is where I'm going to put my 3rd stitch. So there we go. I'll meet you at this point and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alright, now here I am all the way back down the other side. So now we've increased to a stitch count of 16 on either side. So what we're going to do is once again chain up 1, and this is how you're increasing as you go. So you're chaining up 1, you're turning, you're going to put your first half double crochet into that stitch just there beneath that chain of 1 when the camera focuses, especially. So just into there. Yeah, so that's how we're increasing. Like I said, just try it on as you go. I'm only saying this because this is actually the second time I filmed this, because the first time I tried, I used a 3.5mm hook. So the bikini cups were just much too big for some reason. So that was really annoying, and it just didn't sit right when I tried to put in the rest of the top. I mean, obviously this is going to be a dress, but yeah, it just didn't sit right. So I'm using a smaller hook, and I'm going to play around with the stitch count at this point. Obviously I'll let you know every step of the way what I've done. But yeah, so very shortly we'll meet back up and I'll let you know how many half rounds we've done. So you're going to be doing exactly the same thing as we've just done here, and as we are doing here for the second cup. They're both going to be exactly the same size. However, one thing I will say is that when you get to a point where you think it's one half, oh yeah, also, by the way, I call these half rounds just because we're not joining them. So that's what we'll go. So I'm just going to refer to it as a half round. So when you've got to a point where you feel like you need one more half round to complete the cup, stop there. Stop there, and for the first one that we're doing here, you're going to cut the yarn and you're going to tie it off. But for the second cup, don't cut the yarn and tie off. So for example, what I usually have for my bikini cups is half round count of 12. So there's 12 all up. So what I'll do is for the first cup, I will only do 11 half rounds. I'll cut the yarn and I'll tie off. Then for the second cup, I'll do 11 half rounds, but the 12th is going to be where we join the cups and do half double crochets on the bottom. So you'll see when we get to that point. So stop at 1 half round before you finished, and I hope that all made sense. If it doesn't, just let me know. Obviously we'll meet back up in a moment and I'll show you what I mean by what I've said. Alright, so I'll see you soon. So you're continuing to increase as well, the way we did before. So 2 half double crochets into that chain space of 1 at the peak just there. So we go 2 half double crochets, 1 and 2. Sorry, that's my kitten. And then chain 1, and then 2 more half double crochets, 1 and 2. Alright, then half double crochets back down the other end. And obviously there's always going to be the same amount of half double crochets on each side, so just count on occasion as you go along just to make sure. Bobby, what's wrong? Just count as you go along to make sure, you know, you haven't dropped a stitch here or there or something. Alright, so I'll see you soon. Alright, now then, I've completed both bikini cups. Wow. I've done 10 half rounds for each bikini cup, so that's what this looks like. And I've tied off on the first one, and I've still got my stitch is going on the second one. So we haven't finished this because we're going to finish up this one and then attach it to this one. Alright, so I'm just going to quickly give you a look at what we're doing. So this is it, and I've got them both lying down flat the same way. So what I mean by that, the same way, is you see on this side, there's the braided edge of the stitch, and that's facing upwards. That's the wrong side. You're going to be working into this side, which is the side that you would normally be working into if you chain up one and turn. So they're both facing this way, just so you don't get confused or twist them up. So they both look the same when you attach them, you know? So we're doing that. Alright, so moving on. What we're going to do is, just straight from the last stitch we did on the 10th half round of this cup, we're just going to chain up one and turn, and you're going to be putting in the 11th half round of this cup. So just the same as all the other ones, when you get to the top, you're going to half double crochet twice into the peak, into that chain space of one, chain one, half double crochet twice again, and then complete the half double crochets down the other side. Then once you get to this other side down here, we're going to meet back up and we're going to join to the other cup together. Okay, see you soon. Alright, here I am down the side of this cup. So I've done 11 half rounds for this one. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to tilt the camera down so that we can see it properly. So what we're going to do is, straight from the last stitch that we've done here, we're going to yarn over, and we're going to push the yarn to this side, and we're going to pick up the next cup, or the second cup. And I'm going to be crocheting in this end as I go along. So you've yarned over, you've pushed the yarn to this side, picking up this cup, you're just going to insert your hook into the first stitch along just there, the one that you'd normally be going into if you chained up one and turned. Then you're going to yarn over, pull through a loop, make sure that's pulled tight so that the stitch is, you know, just as tight as the rest of them. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through those 3 loops. So we're just half double crocheting the cups together, just like that. So there you go. Now at this point, we're going to be putting half double crochets all the way up to the peak at the top. But at this point, we're going to stop because we're going to be doing something a bit different. Also at this point, make sure you don't get this twisted. So this stitch in the middle, just try and keep them the same way, so that you don't get your cups all twisted up when you go to join things. Alright, so I'll meet you at this stage and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Okay, see you soon. Alright, now here I am at the top of the cup before I've put in the increase. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put 1 half double crochet into that increase. So just that one right there. Now don't do the next one, because what we're going to do at this point is I'm going to lay this down flat again, just so you can have a look at what I'm doing. Alright, so here they are. I've laid them down flat again. So what I'm doing is I'm chaining a length that's going to run from here to here. So for me that's 30 chains. I suggest just playing around with it. And what we're going to do once we've done that is we're going to be attaching to the first stitch along just here at the top before that chain of 1. So that stitch right there. So for me it's 30. Just play around with the length, because what we'll do then is we'll slip stitch back along that length and continue on with the rest of the cup. So I'm just going to chain a length. So I'm going to chain 30. 1, 2, 3. Alright, now here I am with my chain of 30. So what we're going to do now is we're going to slip stitch to the corresponding stitch on the other side on the other cup. Now I just want to explain. So remember at the beginning when I said that the stitch that you're working into falls to the top left hand side of the current stitch. That obviously only applies when you're putting your stitches in on the unbraided side. But because we've put in all the stitches along on this side and then we just joined straight to this cup, we obviously haven't turned this cup around. So the braided side is still facing us. So the corresponding stitch for this one just here, the first half double crochet into the increase section, is if you pick up, okay, so push the yarn to this side. So I've got my chain of 30, I'm pushing the yarn to this side, picking up the cup. And so you'll see along on here, the stitch that you'll be working into is now going to, because you've got the braided side facing you, is now going to fall to the top right hand side. The top right hand side of the stitch that you're working onto. So where's that? There's the chain space of one just there. There's the next one along, and obviously it's the mirror reflection. So it's this one that you're working with, and you're going to stick your hook into that, around that whole braided part of the stitch, the V of the stitch. So there's the stitch you're working into. So you're going to be going into the one that falls to the top right hand side of that. I hope that makes sense. Then what you're doing is you're pulling your yarn over, pull it through a loop, and then you're just slip stitching to that last chain you've got on your hook. Just like that. I hope that made sense. If it didn't, let me know. I'll try and explain it better in words. Anyway, like I just did then. Anyway, moving on. So you're going to slip stitch all the way back along this chain now. Hang on, I'm going to tilt the camera up. That's probably just irritating me a little bit. But anyway, doesn't matter. So we're turning back to the chain now. And everything's going to be okay. So skipping that first chain just there from the hook, because obviously that's the one that you've got slip stitched to the cup. You're going to move on to the next one. Going to insert your hook into that chain, yarn over, pull through a loop, and you're just slip stitching to every chain all the way back to the beginning. So for me, it's 30. So that's 1, 2, and 3. All right, I'll see you. Hang on, I don't know whether you saw that properly. So where are we? And then we've got 4. So I'll see you at the beginning of the chain, and we'll move on to our next step. Okay, see you soon. Alright, and here I am back at the beginning of that chain. So all we're going to do now is we're going to put our next half double crochet into that increased section. So that's going to be the second half double crochet. Then we're going to chain 1 and put another 2 half double crochets into the increase. So it's just increasing as normal, but you've got that chain of 30 after the first half double crochet of the increased section. So now all you're going to do is, why is that tight? Now all you're going to do is just put your half double crochets in all the way down the other side. All the way down the other side. So I'm going to lay this down quickly as well. We're going to have a look at it again. So it's kind of important that, hang on, where are we? It's kind of important that we do it that way. It's just because I figured it out, obviously trial and error, when I put the chain into the wrong stitches, and it was just like off center, so it can look really, really wrong and really ridiculous, and it won't sit straight if you put it into the wrong stitch. So that's what it's got to be. And we've got the increased section at the top for when we add the straps to the back. So yes, I will meet you when you get down to this side, and from there we're going to put half double crochets along the bottom. So I'll meet you at that point and we'll talk through it together. Okay, see you soon. Okay, here we are. So I'm down the end and we've completed all the joining of the cups. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put the half double crochets along the undersides. So we're working with obviously 2 times 11, because there's going to be 22 row ends along the underside of each cup. So we're going to be, okay, we'll get to it. It's fine. So for the first cup, we're going to be distributing 11 half double crochets evenly across. And to do that, what we do is, first, to begin, we're going to turn to the underside. So to do that, we put 2 more half double crochets into that final stitch. So, try not to bump the camera. So 1 and 2, and that last half double crochet just there is going to be the first stitch along on the bottom of the cup. So you've already worked a stitch into that row end, the 11th row end. So now what you're going to do is you're going to put a half double crochet into the next row end along. So that's going to be that one. Try and get a bit closer. I've got to work on focusing better. All right, so that's going to be that one just there. So you're going to put a half double crochet into that row end. Then you're moving on to the next row end, which is going to be that one just there. You're going to put a half double crochet into that, so that's stitch number 3. stitch number 3, then you've got your next row end just there, so that's going to be stitch number 4. So you're going to be doing that to the end of the cup. I'm going to meet you in the middle before the join, and we're going to work around that join together. I'll show you what I do there. So yes, what else do we need to do? Oh yep, there's that next row end just there. Alright, yes, so I'll see you at the end of the cup, and you'll have 22, well, you'll have twice whatever half double crochet, okay, so no, half round. So whatever half round count that you're working with, say maybe you have 13 or 14 half rounds, it's going to be double that along the bottom into each row end. I'm sure you understand. Okay, I'll see you at the end of the thing. Alright, so here I am at the end of that cup, and I'm just about to put in my 22nd half double crochet into that last row end of the cup. So just like that. Now, what I'm going to do is making sure this is, well, it's not going to be twisted, so it's going to be fine. What we're going to do is just around that join, around that half double crochet that joins, we're just going to yarn over, and we're going to just half double crochet around the midsection, just like that. So a half double crochet in the middle. So now all you're going to do is put the same amount of half double crochets along this cup as you've done along this cup. So obviously for me it's 22 going into each row end. Where are we? Where's the next one? It's just there. I'm going to be going into that one. It's fairly easy to see where you need to put your stitch. The row ends are pretty evident. Alright, yes, I'll meet you at the end of this cup and we'll talk about joining up, and then we'll move on to the back. Alright, I'll see you soon. Alright, so I'm at the end of this cup, just putting in my 22nd stitch. So as you can see just here on the final row end, just here, I'm putting my last stitch into that chain of 1 at the beginning, because that's where the row end is. So I'm going around that chain of 1. Hang on a second, so 1, it's a little bit tight. That is very annoying. 1 second. Alright, I got my hook through that stitch. So what we're going to do is we're just going to half double crochet that last stitch of the row, that edging underneath the cups. So there's 22 across there like that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put another half double crochet next to that final one, which is going to turn us back up to the side. But of course that stitch is really tight, so it's going to be easy for me to do. But I will do it. Yeah, hang on a second. That was super annoying. Alright, so there's that final half double crochet, which has turned us up to this point. So now, because we've crocheted around the stitch that I would normally slip stitch into in this instance, so that's that one just there, what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into the next one along. So the one that's after that first stitch of this half round. So you're just going to slip stitch into the next stitch along. So we've gone around that chain of 1, just so I just want to make that really clear. So we're slip stitching to that one, just like that. Then you're going to chain 1, pull through. So what you've got at the bottom of the cup here is a stitch count of 45, because we've got a 22, 22, 44, plus the one in the middle, 45. So that's what you're working with at the front there. Let's lay that down flat and have a look. Yeah, that looks good. I'm glad. All right. So I've done that. It was actually a lot of trial and error to get to this point, but that's okay. That's what I'm here for. So yeah, I like that. Now we're going to start work on the back, and the back's going to be completely different. Now, to begin the back, we're going to find some fresh yarn. We're going to make a slip knot. So making a slip knot. We're going to adjust that knot to our hook. Pull tight. And I'm going to start by making a chain of 30. So it depends on how wide you want this to be at the back. The thing is that we're going to be increasing to a certain point where the stitch count sort of reaches beneath your armpits. and sits comfortably at your sides from the back. So I'm chaining 30, and what I want to do is increase to a stitch count of roughly about 60, give or take 2 stitches. So chaining 30, so 1, 2, 3. Alright, so here's that chain of 30. Now what I'm going to do is chain an extra one for the turning, so 31, and we're going to put a double crochet into the second chain from the hook. So not that one just there, that's the first. So we're skipping that first chain from the hook as always. Moving on to the second one along. So for a double crochet, it's yarn over, and we are only doing a chain up of 1 and turning before each row for this as well. It's just because it makes the sides look neater, and trust me, it just works. All right, so your yarn over, you're going to insert your hook into that second chain along, just there, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. We'll do the next one together as well. So it's yarn over, insert your hook into the next chain along, so that one just there, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So I'm going to do double crochets all the way back to the beginning of this chain of 30. Once we get to that stage, we're going to meet back up and we're going to talk about beginning our increases. All right, see you soon. All right, so here I am with a double crochet into each of those chains all the way back to the beginning. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to chain up 1, so just like this, chaining up 1, focusing the camera, and we're going to turn our work. And you're going to put a half double crochet right into that first stitch just there. So we're starting increases now on this row. So right into that first stitch below that chain of 1, you're going to put your first half double crochet. Your first double crochet, because we're working in double crochets now. So pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So you're putting 1 double crochet into the first stitch, then into the next stitch along you're going to put 2 double crochets into the same stitch. So that one just there, 1, and 2. Alright, so I've put 2 double crochets into that second stitch, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a double crochet into each stitch till I get to the second last stitch of the row. So getting to the second last stitch of the row, and here I am at the second last stitch of the row. So we're on to the stitch 29, so we're going to put 2 double crochets into that 29th stitch. So 1 and 2, then into the final stitch, so that's that one right at the end there, and it's going to look like that because we're only chaining up 1. So it might look like you don't need to put your stitch into that one, but you do. Sorry, that's Daisy and her child talking to each other. Okay, so into that stitch just there right at the end, double crochet. So there we go. So that's how we're going to increase. We put 2 stitches into every second and every second last stitch of each row until you've increased to a stitch count that's wide enough to sort of fit comfortably at your sides, just beneath the armpits. So chaining up 1 for each row and turning, then your first double crochet going into that stitch right beneath that chain of 1, so just in there, and 2 into the second. So yeah, if you just remember that, 2 into every second last. So the other thing that we need to talk about is what you're going to do is you're going to also increase to a length. This is the other thing. So you need to increase it to a length that is about 1 row short of, let's tilt this down. So you're going to increase it to a length of a row that is just one short of this cup. So starting from the peak just up here, I don't know why, yeah. And so you're going to keep increasing the length till, you know, it gets to sort of maybe where you've got a little bit left just here, still showing. Because what you're going to do when you put your final row in, you're going to be attaching the back to the cups just here with the final row of the back. So you'll see how that goes when we get to it. For now, just do that. So increasing to a stitch count that you're happy with, while also increasing the length to a row that is just short of each bra cup. Well, the bra cups, bikini cups, either way, whatever, same thing. Sort of. Okay, all right, so I'll meet back up with you. Obviously, I'll show you in a moment. If you want to just stick around, you'll see what I mean by that when we meet back up. And I show you what I mean by just one row short of the length. Okay, see you soon. All right, now then, I've increased the length and the width of the back to a size that I'm happy with. Yeah. Also, it's, okay, I'll show you what I mean. So it's come to a stitch count of about 60. So with an extra row, which we're going to be putting in, and we're going to be using the extra row to attach to the cups. But I'm going to show you what I mean by lining it up with the sizes. So line the top of the back up with the top of one of the cups, just there like that. And then you can see it's got one row, about one row left till it's the same length. So that's how that's meant to be. So what we're going to do now is we're going to attach to the cups. So I'm going to turn the cups over like this so that we're working into the backs of the stitches, not the front. And what we're going to do now is we'll work like this for the moment so that you can see what's going on. We're going to stick our hook back into the back. We're going to, are we going to chain up one? No, yes we are, because that's how we're attaching it. So chaining up one, just to stay with, you know, the continuity of what we're doing. We're chaining up one, and we're starting another double crochet just at the end here. So putting your first double crochet into that stitch right beneath that chain of one. So go into that, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through two. So you're only starting this double crochet. Then you're going to pick up the bikini cup on this side, so we're attaching it to the corresponding side at the front just here, and you're going to stick it through the stitch that's just before the first stitch along the bottom. So we're going to be putting it into stitches on either side of the actual stitch count of the bottom, if that makes sense. I hope it does. So you've inserted your hook into this. You also pulled, make sure the yarn is pulled to this side so that when you pick it up, you insert your hook into that stitch just there. You can bring the yarn around, yarn over, pull through that stitch on the front just there, and pull through the remaining, let's drop that, that's not good. So yarn over, pull through that stitch, then you're going to pull it through those two remaining stitches for that double crochet, that first one of the row just there. So just like that. Now what you're going to do is you're going to put your two double crochets into the next stitch along for the increase at the back. So this is going to be the final increase for the back. So that's one. Try and make it as neat as possible. 1 and 2 into that second stitch. Then you'll complete your double crochets across till you get to the second last stitch, where you're going to put another 2, and for the final stitch we're going to meet back up and we're going to join to the other side together. So I'll see you at that point. Alright, now here I am, and I've done my final increase stitches just there into that second last stitch. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to yarn over, go into that last stitch at the end just there, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. But once again, we're leaving those 2 on the hook. We're going to put the yarn to that side just like that, pick up the front, the corresponding front section, and you're going to go into that first stitch along just there. Just make sure you count at the front so that you know you've got the right amount of stitches between the 2 stitches that you've joined the back by. So for me it's going to be 45, so this is the 40, just say 46th along. Then you're going to yarn over, same as the other one, yarn over, pull through that loop, yarn over, oh no wait, no, pull through that loop, and then pull that loop through those 2 loops on the hook. So just finishing up that double crochet by joining it to the front. So that's what we've got. So now what we're going to do is we're going to chain up 1 straight from where you are, chain 1, and you're going to turn to the side of the back, just like that, just like this. And you're going to be treating this chain of 1 that you just did as the first of your single crochets that you're going to be doing along the sides. And you'll be doing 2 single crochets into each of these double crochet row ends. So, because that chain of 1 was your first single crochet, the second one is going to go into the second part of that first row end just there. So that's going to be just in there. And for a single crochet, you insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through those 2 loops, and just like that. So that's a single crochet. Now going into the next row, you'll be able to see pretty easily each row's got 2 parts to it. So the first part of the next row end, which is just there, it's going to be that just there. So you're going to single crochet into that. Then moving on to the second part of the row end, which is going to be just in, I just want to make sure you can see that. So I've gone into that first part. Now the second part of that row end, which is going to be just there, single crochet. So it's going to be like that the whole way up. Then moving on to the next row end. So the first part of that row end, which is just there. Then the second part, which is just there. And you can see there's going to be something sort of separating both parts of that row end, each row end, all the way to the top corner of the back section. So that's what we're doing. We're putting 2 into each row end till we get to the top. Let's do the next one together as well. So just this row end just here, we're going to go into the first part, which is just there. So 1, and then the second part, which is just there, 2. And I'm going to meet you when you get to the top corner of this back section. So we'll meet up at this point, and we'll talk about how we're going to join the back to the front with straps. All right, see you soon. All right, now I'm on my last stitch of this row end just at the top here. So we're going to put a single crochet, which is going to be actually the original foundation chain of the whole entire back. So what we're going to do from this last single crochet just on the edge, on the side, we're going to chain a length and connect it. I'm going to tilt this down again. So I've still got my bikini cups sort of lying relatively flat just here, from where we joined at the sides down the bottom, just from the front to the back to the front. So what we're doing is we're doing a strap, and we're doing it, it's going to run from the back to the front, then we're going to slip stitch back along that chain, continue single crochets along the back just here, do the same length of chain and attach it to the front just here. So at this point, it's kind of something you want to play around with a little bit, because I had to play around with mine, just because you want the front to sit comfortably and the back to sort of sit comfortably, sort of basically at the same level on you, if that makes sense. So try it on as you go. For me, it's been 50 chains. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. So I'm going to chain 50 and we'll meet back up. So 1, 2, 3. So I'm chaining 50. All right, now here I am with that chain of 50. So being careful not to twist that. What I'm going to do now, making sure my yarn is once again to the right at the back, so just push it aside like this, picking up the bikini cup in front of that. What you're going to do is you're going to find the increase section just there at the top of the bikini cup, right before that chain, just there. You're going to insert your hook into that increase section, that chain of 1 space, yarn over, pull the loop through that increase section, and then pull that loop through the last chain on the hook. So we're just slip stitching basically to the increase section on the bikini cup. And now bringing the yarn back sort of around like this, you're going to turn back to the chain, so sort of turn your work a little, turn back to the chain, and skipping that first chain from the hook, you're going to slip stitch into every chain all the way back to the beginning. So that may seem a little bit tricky at that point. Might get you hooked through that first one just there. So for me, that's going to be 50. And I will meet you once we've slip stitched into all of those chains. So there's one. Then moving on to, where are we? The next one. So that will be 2. So yes, slip stitch all the way back to the beginning of that chain. We'll go through what we're doing next, and I'll see you soon. Alright, so here I am, and I've slip stitched back along that connecting chain from the front to the back. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another single crochet into that top beginning chain like we already have. We've already single crocheted into that, so one more single crochet. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to be putting a single crochet into the other side of this beginning chain above the stitches that are already there. So kind of like the bikini cups, you're going to go into the other side of that chain with a single crochet. So 1, well, that'll be stitch number 2 actually. So you've already got this one, which would count as 1. So that one where we've got the single crochet, that chain of 50, and the single crochet. So that's 1, 2, 3, and just moving along till you get to the other side of the top. And once you get to that very end stitch just there, the one above that single crochet at the beginning, you're going to chain the same length that you chained just here. You're going to attach it into the increased section at the top of this cup. You're going to turn, slip stitch back down that chain to here. You're going to single crochet into that stitch where you've already single crocheted. Then you're going to turn to the side and put 2 single crochets into each row end till you get down to that point. So I don't think I need to meet back up with you until we do reach that point. So that's what we're doing. I will leave you, we'll go away, we'll complete what we're doing, we'll meet back up. I'll show you what it's meant to look like, obviously, once it's all complete. But I think you know where to go from here. So we're going to do that separately, and I'll see you soon. Alright, so here I am down this side. So I've done both the straps, and I'm all the way back down the side of this, on this side of the back. So I put all my single crochets all the way down to the bottom of the back again. So what we're going to do at this point is, sort of, hopefully not too awkwardly, we're going to, hang on a second, where are we? Making sure it's all not twisted and lined up. So here's where we joined the bottom of the back to the bottom of the front, just here on this side. So what we're going to do, straight from that single crochet that we did, we're going to turn to the bottom like this, and we're going to slip stitch into that stitch where we joined, just there, the back to the front. So you're just going to slip stitch into that stitch, and just like that, there we go. So as you can see here, we're working into now the backs of the stitches on both the back and the front. So if you turn it over, there's that braided side on the back and on the front. So what we're going to do now is we're working in double crochets, and we're going to be doing 1 round of double crochet the entire way around. So what we're going to do for that is we're going to chain up 2, because we are joining at the end of this. So we're chaining up 2 and skipping that first stitch just there, because you use that to connect, so you don't really need to go into it. We're just going to go skip that one. We're going to go into the next one along. So 1, and count as you go around. So for me, I've got a stitch count of 45 at the front and 62 at the back, so bear with me. Hang on a second. So what did I say? 45 plus 62. So I've got 107 stitches. So I'm going to have 107 stitches all the way around. So that's 1 and 2 and 3. So I'll meet you when you get to the end of the round. I'll make sure I've got all my 107 double crochets. We'll meet back up and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Okay, see you soon. Alright, now I've finished 107 stitches and I'm all the way around to the beginning of that round. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to find that chain of 2 from the beginning, so that one just there, and I'm going to slip stitch into the stitch at the top of that. So where are we? Making sure we're focused. See, there's that chain of 2 just there. I'm going to slip stitch into the stitch just there above that to close the round, just like that. There we go. All right, so that's round one. So what my plan is to leave the back free until I get to the skirt and just continue the top down to, say, about my belly button. But because obviously I want to continue the continuity of the pattern, so making sure that I'm working into the other side of the stitch. So what I'm going to do now, because if we do that now, if we chain up 2, well, I'm going to have to chain up 2, so chain up 2 from where you are. But if we continued along the front right now, we'd be going into the wrong side of the stitch, and I don't really want to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to complete another round. So for this one, what you're going to do is you chain up 2, you turn the work, and your first stitch is not going to be into that stitch directly beneath the chain of 2 just there. You're going to put it into the next stitch along. So we're going to be doing a stitch into the next stitch along, because your final stitch is going to be that connecting stitch right there at the end beneath that chain of 2. So that will be your final stitch. Just count to make sure you've still got the right amount of stitches. But yes, we're completing another round. Then once we've finished up this one, we'll talk about how we're going to do the front. Okay, see you soon. Okay, here I am at the end of this round. So once again, I'm going to find that chain of 2 from the beginning. So that just there, I'm going to slip stitch into the stitch at the top of that to close the round. There we go. So that's 2 rounds of just rounds. So what we're going to do now is, because when we chain up now and we turn, we're going to be doing the front. We're going to be starting at the front. So all we're going to do now is, actually we're chaining up 1 because we're not doing rounds. So just chain up 1 and turn. You're going to put your first double crochet into that second one along, so that one just there. So that's 1. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing the stitch count along the front that you had along the bottom of the cups. So for me, it's going to be 45 double crochets along. So I'll meet up with you when I've put in 45 double crochets. Alright, so I've put in those 45 double crochets across the front just there. So now what we're going to do is straight from that stitch, you're going to chain up 1 and turn, and putting your first double crochet into that stitch right beneath that chain of 1, so your stitch count is always right. Going to put a double crochet, double crochet, and then double crochets all the way across that stitch count that you have at the front. So for me, 45. And once you get to the end of this row, you're going to chain up 1, you're going to turn. So what we're doing now is growing the front to just, I would say, just beneath your belly button. So that's how long it's going to be. And then after that, we're going to put in the skirt. So I'll meet back up with you once we've grown the front to, either around about your belly button or just below. So for me, I think it's going to be just below. All right, so we'll go away, we'll do that. We'll meet back up and we'll go from there. Okay, see you soon. Alright, now then, I've increased the length of the front to just below my belly button, exactly. So that's good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain a length that wraps from this side of the front around my back to this side. So for me, it's going to be 85 chains because I want to have a starting stitch count of 130 for this skirt. For you though, if for your personal size, what you do is you chain a length that's sort of, it's not too tight but not loose. You need it to be snug, because when you put in the double crochets into that chain, it sort of stretches the chain a little bit and it can sort of sag at the back, and if it's too low, then that sagging at the back is not good. Alright, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to chain 85, I think, yep, 85 to make up, because I've got 45 plus 85, so it's going to be 130. So 1, 2, 3. So I'll meet back up with you once I've chained my 85. All right, now I've chained my length of 85, and I've also turned the front so that the side you would normally be working into is facing you. So now you've got the chain coming out from this side. So now what you're going to do is you're going to work your way along to this side. You're going to turn it like this, making sure that yarn is to the back, just there like that. You're going to find the chain of 1 from the beginning. So let's get a bit closer. So the chain of 1 before that first stitch, so that's that just there. You're going to go into that chain of 1, just like this, and you're going to slip stitch to join that chain to the other side. So just like that, slip stitching. There we go. Now all we've got to do is chain up 2. So we're going to be chaining up 2 from now on. You don't have to chain up 1. So because we're working in rounds for the skirt. So chaining up 2, and we're going to turn. All right, we've chained up 2, we've turned. So we're going to work double crochets into this chain that we've just done. But what I want to do is I want the braided side of the chain, so this side, to be facing up. And the way we do that is we put our stitch, if you turn over the braid, so here's the braided side. And if you turn that over, you can see that there's the third part of the chain, which is that little bump on the back. So there's little bumps just there. You're going to be working your double crochets into those. So we're going to be doing that. However, the first one I always find of this chain is a little difficult to get into. So I grab a smaller hook and I put my first one. So your first one's going to be into that little bump just there. But like I said, it's always a little bit tight, which is annoying. So if I sort of pull it out, it might be less tight. So you're going to yarn over, you're going to put your first double crochet into that very first bump just there. I hope you can see that. So make sure you've turned over the chain. Yeah, see? 1 second. All right, so yes, I did get my hook through that chain. It was a little difficult, but it's okay. So yes, that first one is quite tight. However, what we do is we just double crochet through that very first one, like so. And keep it a little loose because you are using, or if you're using a smaller hook anyway. Yeah, it might seem tricky and difficult, but stick with it, you'll get it through eventually. So now I'm going to switch back to my normal hook. 3. And now we're just working a double crochet into each of those bumps all the way back. So count as you go along to make sure you've got the right amount. Yeah, these bumps can seem a little tight, but it is worth it because it's nicer to have the braided side facing out, you know, just looks better. And you'll see what I mean. As you go along, as you've done a few, you can turn it over and you'll see how it looks. So once you've got to the end of this chain, once you've put in all your double crochets, I'll meet back up with you and we'll move on to just working the rest of the double crochets in. All right, I'll see you at the other end of this chain. All right, now here I am putting in my final stitch at the end of this chain. So that one just there. There we go. So there's all those double crochets across that chain. And like I said, if you turn that over, you can see the braid is facing up instead of just the plain edging it would normally have if you put the double crochet into the back of the V at the top of the chain. Anyway, now moving straight on to the first stitch along on the back. So for me, there should be 45 remaining stitches of the round. So I'm just straight into that stitch just there. And I'll meet you at the end of the round. We'll close up together and we'll talk about how we're going to carry on with the skirt. All right, see you soon. All right, now here I am putting my last stitch in at the end of the round. So it's that connecting stitch just there before the chain, or beneath the chain of 2. So that's the final one. So now I'm going to find that chain of 2 from the beginning. So where are we? Making sure I get it and it's not messy. 1 second. Alright, so as you can see here, my chain of 2, it's a little bit tight, that stitch at the top that you're needing to go into to slip stitch. So you can see just here, turning this around, there is the chain of 2. but this is not the greatest example, which is frustrating. I'm gonna try and shove my hook through. If not, I'll have to use a smaller hook. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to. God, it's really annoying. All right, never mind. So, just here, and there we go, just like that. So that's that chain of 2 from the beginning. You're just slip stitching to that. Hang on a second. Yeah, so what we're going to do now is we're going to, after we've slip stitched to this annoyingly tight stitch here. All right, so now we've done that, switch back to our normal hook. So what we're going to do now, or what I'm going to do now, what we are going to do now, is chain up 2 and turn. So I'll meet back up with you at the end of this round, and you'll see how we slip stitch normally and what the stitch should look like that you're slip stitching into at the end of the round, just because that one was a bit messy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a total of 4 more rounds just of 130 stitches. But after that, I'm going to start increasing. And okay, so to begin this round, you're going to put your double crochet in, not into that first stitch right there beneath the chain of 2, but into the next one along. So that's your first stitch, just like that. And that is because your final stitch is going to be into the connecting stitch beneath the chain of 2 at the end of the round. So that one just there is going to be your final stitch. So yes, I'm going to do 4 more rounds of 130 so that I have a total of 5 rounds, including this first one that we did, of 130 stitches before I start increasing. So I'll meet back up with you at that point and we'll do it together. Okay, see you soon. Alright, so here I am at the end of this second round, but like I said, I wanted to meet back up with you to show you how it should look when you slip stitch into that chain of 2 that you chained up to and you turned. So here we are at the end of the round, and here is that chain of 2. So as you can see, there's that stitch at the top of it. You're just going to be slip stitching into that to close the round. So there we go, and that's it. And now you're just going to chain up 2, turn the work, and continue as you have been. So I'm going to go away, I'm going to complete 3 more rounds, and yes, then we'll meet back up and we'll go through how to increase together. Alright, so I have done 5 rounds of just 130 stitches, no increase. However, now we're going to start putting in extra stitches to increase the width of the skirt. So what I do, because I like my skirts to be quite straight, but if you want, you can do it with, I think maybe like a stitch every 10th stitch, just increasing it more points. Anyway, I'll show you what we're doing here. So because I like more of a straight skirt, what I do is I increase for every 20th stitch, every 5th row. So we've done, well, actually every 6th. But the 6th row is going to be the first of the next 5 before I increase again. So I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of just 130. But for this round, so chaining up 2 and turning, chaining up 2, turning, we're going to start our next round. And on the 20th stitch, we're going to be putting 2 stitches into the same stitch. Alright, so here I am about to put in my 20th stitch. So into that stitch we're going to put 1 and 2 double crochets into that same stitch. So now I'm going to count 20 more across, put 2 more into the next 20th, and I'm going to do that all the way to the end. So at the end there's going to be 10 stitches extra because it's 130, so obviously you can't divide 130 by 20. So for this round, for this set of increases, I'm going to be increasing to 136. So for my next set of increases after this, I'll only be needing to, because I want to increase, I think, to maybe 140 stitches. I'll see how it goes, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be it. So after I've done this round of increases, I'm going to do 4 more rounds of just no increase. So that makes 5 more rounds. Then after that, so that'll be 8, no, that'll be 10 complete rounds. So on the 11th round, I'm going to increase again, but because I want to increase to 140, I guess I'll be having to put an extra stitch into every 34th stitch. 34 times 4, 130, yeah, okay. So yeah, every 34th stitch. And that will bring my stitch count to 140 because I'll be adding 4 extra stitches. So that's what I'm doing. And at that stage, I think I'll stop. But like I said, you can add more, do more increases. So if you say perhaps do 2 extra stitches every 10th stitch, and then just do more rounds of increases with less straight rounds until it's, you know, frilly and nice and however you want it to be. So that's what you can do. Play around with it. It's always fun to play around with these things, you know. It's good. It's good. All right, so I don't really think we need to meet back up again. I think you know what to do. So yes, if you need, I don't know, if you need extra help with anything, just let me know in the comments, or like I said, look for me on Instagram. I'm happy to help out. But yes, I really don't think we need to meet back up again until we've finished our dresses. And obviously at that point, we're going to meet back up. We're going to try on our dresses. We're going to see how they look. They're definitely going to look good. I actually have a few skeins of this particular yarn, so I'm really hoping to make this a very long skirt for a change. I mean, I always make short skirts, but because this one's like a transitional summer into autumn garment, yeah, I'm definitely hoping to make this very long. We'll see what happens. If I don't have enough of this one, I still have, actually, I still have this yarn. Whoa. I still have this yarn, which is the yarn that I used to make that little top that I didn't have enough of to make that dress. But, I mean, you know, could always add this to this. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that would look gross. I don't know. Probably not. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. I've talked enough. So I'll see you shortly for when we try on our dresses. Okay. See you soon. Alrighty. Here is the finished dress. So yeah. As you can see, it wasn't too hard to make. It was fairly experimental, but it's not too difficult. So it's I am thinking of doing, well, I am actually doing this again. My next tutorial, possibly the next one or the one after, is going to be very similar to this, but with long sleeves because it's coming into the colder times. So yeah, just this one, you know, to wear while the weather's still a little bit warm. So yes, I thought I'd go out and about and film for the outro of this, just show you a little bit more about where I live. Down by the water. It's nice down there. This is actually the same day as the intro. So I did this and then I went back into the city, had a glass of wine, did a bit of, you know, stuff like that. Anyway, that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you've made yourself a lovely dress. Hope you're well and safe wherever you are. And that's really all I can think to say. Alright. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.